Hi, welcome to my channel, True Crime with Gael, where Fright Month has begun. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you do enjoy this video, please like, comment, or subscribe. Alright, let's begin. In folklore, a werewolf is a human with the ability to shapeshift into a wolf or wolf-like creature after being placed under a curse or after being scratched or bitten by another werewolf. These transformations typically take place on the night of a full moon. Like the witchcraft trials as a whole, the trials of supposed werewolves emerged in what is now Switzerland in the early 15th century and spread throughout Europe in the 16th century, peaking in the 17th and subsiding by the 18th century. In spite of how Twilight has softened the modern perception of werewolves, I still know people who are terrified of the idea of werewolves being real. Manuel Blanco Romasanta entered this mortal realm in 1809. Throughout the span of Blanco's life, Spain was in a period of its history that was drenched in blood and lacking political stability. This period of time was documented impeccably by Francisco Goya through paintings such as the 3rd of May, 1808, along with its companion work, the 2nd of May, 1808, and his infamous prints entitled The Disasters of War. Art historians view them as a visual protest against the violence and setbacks to the liberal movement during that time period. The series of prints is usually placed into 3 groups. The first 47 focus on incidents from the 1808 Dos de Mayo uprising and the subsequent Peninsular War of 1808 to 1814. They show the consequences of the conflicts on individual soldiers and civilians. The middle series, plates 48 to 64, record the effects of the famine that hit Madrid in 1811 to 1812, before the city was liberated from the French. The final 17 reflect the bitter disappointment of liberals when the restored Bourbon monarchy, encouraged by the Catholic hierarchy, rejected the Spanish Constitution of 1812 and opposed both state and religious reform. Goya's scenes of atrocities, starvation, degradation, and humiliation have been described as the prodigious flowering of rage. There were 2 conflicts being fought in Spain: the resistance against the French threat and a domestic struggle between the ideals of liberal modernization and the pre-political incumbent ruling class. Like other Spanish liberals, Goya was left in a difficult position after the French invasion. Goya had supported the initial aims of the French Revolution and hoped its ideals would help liberate Spain from feudalism to become a secular, democratic political system. However, the domestic divide became even more pronounced following the eventual withdrawal of the French. Goya visited many battle sites around Madrid to witness both the Spanish and liberal resistance. The final plates are a testament to what he described as el desmembramiento de España, the dismemberment of Spain. It's no wonder that such a time would birth a person like Manuel Blanco Romasanta, Spain's first recorded serial killer, who claimed to become a monster when he ripped his victims to shreds. Manuel Blanco Romasanta was born on November 18, 1809, in Regueiro, Escos, Orense province. one of 5 children born to Miguel Blanco and Maria Romasanta. Blanco was an intersex person. The term intersex is an umbrella term that refers to people who have one or more of a range of variations in sexual characteristics that fall outside of traditional conceptions of male or female bodies. For example, intersex people may have variations in their chromosomes, genitals, or internal organs like testes or ovaries. Some intersex characteristics are identified at birth, while other people may not discover they have intersex traits until puberty or later in life. Experts estimate that as many as 1.7% of people are born with intersex traits. That's about the same number of people who are born with red hair. Being intersex is not the same thing as being transgender. A person who is intersex was born with a variation in their internal or external sex characteristics. A person who is transgender identifies with a different gender than they were assumed to be at birth, but their visible sex characteristics usually fit within what most people think of when they think of male or female bodies. Originally thought to be female, Blanco was named Manuela and raised as a girl until the age of 6, when a doctor reassigned their sex. At the age of 8, Blanco's family legally changed their name to Manuel. It is believed their family was relatively wealthy because Blanco could read and write, a skill that was very rare at the time in Galicia. According to various accounts, Blanco was a relatively short person, between 4'6" and 4'11" in height. As an adult, they worked as a dressmaker and were married. Blanco was widowed after a year, but was not suspected of having had a hand in her death. I was unable to find her manner of death. In 1833, Blanco became a traveling salesman, initially in Illescos, then eventually throughout Galicia and Portugal. Blanco was also known to act as a guide for travelers crossing the mountains to Castile, Asturias, and Cantabria, which gave them further opportunities for trade. In 1844, Blanco was charged with the murder of Vicente Fernandez, the alguacil or sheriff of León. Fernandez was found dead after attempting to collect a debt of 600 real that Blanco owed to a supplier in Ponferrada for the purchase of merchandise. When Blanco failed to appear, they were judged guilty by default and sentenced in absentia to 10 years imprisonment. Fleeing from the threat of imprisonment, Blanco lived in hiding for almost a year in an abandoned shelter in Ermita. They reappeared later in public with a false passport using the name Antonio Gomez, a native of Nogueira, Portugal, and lived in the small village of Rebor de Chao in the district of Vilar de Barrio for at least a year. Although Blanco helped with the harvest, they also worked as a cook, a coir maker, and as a weaver, making yarn on a spinning wheel. Blanco became friendly with the women of the village, which led the men to consider them effeminate. Over the following years, several women and children who had hired Blanco as a guide began to disappear. Their disappearances were not noticed immediately because Blanco delivered letters to their families, advising that they had arrived well at their destinations and were settling in. However, people became suspicious when Blanco began selling the victims' clothing locally. Rumors began to spread that Blanco was selling soap made from human fat. In 1852, a complaint was finally lodged in the city of Escalona, claiming that Blanco deceived women and children into traveling with him so that Blanco could kill them and remove their fat, which was then sold. The gruesome allegation turned out to be true. Blanco was arrested in September 1852 in Novella, in the province of Toledo, and brought to trial in Allariz, in the area of Orense. They were accused of murdering 13 people, ranging in age from 10 to 47. As a defense, Blanco claimed to suffer from an affliction called lycanthropy. When Blanco was brought to trial, Galicia was in the middle of one of the worst famines that had plagued the area throughout the 19th century. The famine led to a noticeable increase in mental illness. This chaotic environment of rampant mental illness and desperation helped Blanco become the subject of a historical judgment called the Wolfman in the courts of Allariz. This litigation, based on a claim of lycanthropy, has never been repeated in the history of Spanish law. After admitting to killing 13 people, Blanco said that they had committed the murders after transforming into a wolf. The first time I transformed was in the mountains of Causo. I came across 2 ferocious-looking wolves. I suddenly fell to the ground and began to feel convulsions. I rolled over 3 times, and a few seconds later, I was a wolf. I was out marauding with the other 2 for 5 days, until I returned to my own body, the one you see before you today, Your Honor. The other 2 wolves who came with me, who I thought were also wolves, changed into human form. They were from Valencia. One was called Antonio, and the other Don Guerrero. They too were cursed. We attacked and ate a number of people because we were hungry. The prosecutor, Luciano Bastida Hernandez, asked Blanco to demonstrate the transformation for the court, to which Blanco replied that the curse only lasted for 13 years, and that they were now cured, as that time had expired the previous week. On October 1852, Allariz doctors presented the court with a report on Blanco. Based heavily on phrenology, the report accused him of inventing his affliction. Phrenology is a pseudoscience which involves the measurement of bumps on the skull to predict mental traits. It is based on the concept that the brain is the organ of the mind, and that certain brain areas have localized specific functions or modules. Although both of those ideas have a basis in reality, the central phrenological notion that measuring the contour of the skull can predict personality traits is discredited by empirical research. The court acquitted Blanco of 4 of the murders he had confessed to, ironically because forensic evidence indicated that these victims had died in real wolf attacks. He was found guilty of the other 9, the remains of which exhibited signs of butchering. Blanco's list of named victims were Manuela Garcia, age 47, and her 15-year-old daughter, Petra, who were killed in the Sierra de San Mamede while traveling to Santander. Benita Garcia Blanco, age 34, and her 10-year-old son, Francisco, who were killed in Cogar de Boy while traveling to Rua Cantabras. Antonia Land, 37 years old, and her daughter Peregrina, who were killed while traveling to Orense. Josefina Garcia, and her 21-year-old son, Jose Pazos. And Maria Dolores, who was 12 years old at the time of her murder. On April 6, 1853, Blanco was sentenced to death by garrote. with a 1,000 real compensation to be paid for each victim to their families. Clinical lycanthropy, also known as zoanthropy, is defined as a rare psychiatric syndrome that involves a delusion that the affected person can transform into, has transformed into, or is an animal. It is purported to be a rare disorder. It has been associated with the altered states of mind that accompany psychosis, with the transformation only seeming to happen in the mind and behavior of the affected person. Psychosis is an abnormal condition of the mind that results in difficulties determining what is real and what is not real. Symptoms may include delusions and hallucinations, incoherent speech, and behavior that is inappropriate for a given situation. There may also be sleep problems, social withdrawal, lack of motivation, and difficulties carrying out daily activities. As with many psychiatric phenomena, psychosis has several different causes. These include mental illness, such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, trauma, sleep deprivation, some medical conditions, certain medications, and drugs such as methamphetamine. One type, known as postpartum psychosis, can even occur after giving birth. A study on lycanthropy from the McLean Hospital reported on a series of cases and proposed some diagnostic criteria by which lycanthropy could be recognized. 1. A patient reports in a moment of lucidity or reminiscence that they sometimes feel as an animal or have felt like one. And 2. A patient behaves in a manner that resembles animal behavior, for example, howling, growling, or crawling. It also seems that lycanthropy is not specific to an experience of human to wolf transformation. A wide variety of creatures have been reported as part of the shape-shifting experience. A review of the medical literature from early 2004 lists over 30 published cases of lycanthropy, only the minority of which have wolf or dog themes. Canines are certainly not uncommon, although the experience of being transformed into a hyena, cat, horse, bird, tiger, frogs, and even bees have been reported in some instances. A 1989 case study described how one individual reported serial transformation, experiencing a change from human to dog to horse, and then finally cat, before returning to the reality of human existence after treatment. There are also reports of people who experienced transformation into an animal only listed as unspecified. Blanco's death sentence was overturned after José de Castro y Orozco, the Spanish Minister of Justice, received a letter from a mysterious Mr. Phillips, who claimed that Blanco was suffering from monomania. Furthermore, Mr. Phillips, who is now believed to be French physician Joseph Pierre de Rondécourt, claimed to be able to treat Blanco with hypnosis and asked that the execution be delayed so he could study the case. The sentence was officially commuted to life imprisonment on May 13, 1854, by royal order. Blanco was sent to a prison in Silanova. Ceuta prison and its records no longer exist, but it is widely believed that Blanco died within months of arriving. La Iberia, a liberal journal, included a short sentence on December 23, 1863, reporting that Blanco had died, and in an issue of La Esperanza newspaper, dated December 21, 1863, it was reported on its front page. In Ceuta prison, the unfortunately famous Manuel Blanco Romasanta known in all Spain as the Werewolf, as a consequence of his atrocities and misdeeds, and who was sentenced to prison by the court in La Corona, died in that place on the 14th of this month, being the victim of stomach cancer. However, there is also a rumor that Blanco died after being shot by a guard who wanted to see them transform. Thanks so much for visiting my channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. I'll be posting mostly true crime, but also other mysteries and conspiracy theories. I hope your spooky seasons are going well. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon. I hope you all have peaceful and fulfilling weeks. Bye.